About those two Japanese boxers who succumbed to their subdural hematomas almost 2 weeks ago now. Nobody cares! Sorry, stop lying. I think we're finally getting to a point where the mask has come off the average boxing fan who used to talk about fighter safety and all this other nonsense. I'm not saying fighter safety is nonsense, I'm saying them pretending to care was. Lightning struck twice in the same place in Japan and hardly any boxing channel is even mentioning it. The fighter safety crowd is nowhere to be found, and I for one am not surprised. The main reasons why boxing fans may have felt something or felt like they needed to feel something is because of proximity. They're boxing fans, a boxer dies, something in them gets touched, they get moved, and they think they're supposed to care. Probably because this isn't quote-unquote good for boxing. And should something like this happen to a boxer that they are more closely attached to, bigger fans of, their reaction would be greater. So the tiny bit of reaction you may see out there from the boxing world has almost certainly nothing to do with the sanctity of human life or the fact that this was a true tragedy. And if anyone is still talking about this, it's because content, virtue signaling, and the health of boxing, not so much the boxers in it. I myself wasn't very much moved by this because, well, it happens frequently enough, and it's just 2 people out of 7 or however many billion dying on that particular day. Hundreds, if not thousands of people die every day just in Eastern Europe, and maybe even half of them innocent. And I don't see any of these boxing channels even so much as mentioning this. So clearly, they don't care about the sanctity of human life, okay? And the reason why they don't mention it is because it might jeopardize their money-making abilities here in YouTube. I figured it was important to get this out the way right away because if you truly want to solve a problem, well, you have to not only diagnose the problem correctly, you also have to explain why it is that we have a problem with this. And if I just proved and had done so for years now that no one really cares about fighters, boxers perishing, then I struggle to understand why we think this is a problem in the first place. Boxers decide to be that of their own volition, and everything that entails being a boxer is of their own doing. They know the risks involved and they decide to take them. And if you have a problem with this unfortunate, I guess, fact that a very tiny percentage of athletes who decide to hit each other in the head for a living die of head trauma, then you got a problem with boxing. And the only way to solve that is to ban boxing, or at the very least ban boxing as it exists currently. Maybe turn it into something like Mickey Mouse fights all across the board, right? Exhibitions. What Turkey is trying to do. But nobody wants to do that because it makes too much money for everybody, right? It's because we love boxing. So how about we all just accept that a certain part of our existence on this planet is always going to be war and treat these guys as casualties thereof. Give them their flowers and move on to the next big event in boxing, the next big fight where you're gonna tell all the people that disagree with you on your prediction how yo guy is gonna kill the other guy. I never understood and still don't understand this incoherence in boxing fans. On the one hand, yo guy is gonna kill the other guy, put him in a hospital, destroy him, put him to sleep. And on the other hand, you pretend to get sad when that actually happens. Make up your mind. So no, I don't buy this fake mourning, this fake sadness, the virtue signaling, or this desire, I guess, to reform and make boxing somehow safer. Death in boxing comes with the territory. Accept it or ban it, all of it. But ultimately, whenever this type of stuff happens, it just becomes a political issue. There's always some wise guy like Paulie Malignaggi in this case, who wants to make this about PEDs. The same guy who, whenever Manny Pacquiao's name gets brought up, a guy that has never failed a PED test, always got something smart to say or is insinuating you know what. And then not even 5 minutes later, as in that Boxing Scene YouTube channel video from a few days ago, he will praise Roy Jones Jr., who is a confirmed PED abuser. He failed a drug test, Paulie. And then Paulie goes on to propose some type of solution like, stricter PED testing, while claiming that everybody else or the powers that be are the problem and not he himself. The hypocrite that he is. Because if you think that PEDs are a contributing factor to boxers dying or getting injured in the ring, well, A, not only do you have zero scientific evidence for this, but if I grant you that PEDs are a contributing factor, then B, it is because of people like you who treat boxers differently. They allow one guy to use while preventing the other guy from doing the same. And if a boxer is to get hurt in the ring because he wasn't allowed to use PEDs and the other guy was, then it cannot be the PED use that's causing the problem. It's boxing creating, causing, setting up mismatches. And I don't see anybody talking about how we need to reconsider how we build some of these prospects. Maybe we shouldn't be putting them in all these mismatches over and over and over again. But I'm not even saying that mismatches are really a problem. I mean, didn't at least one of those tragic fights the other day end as a draw? It looked very competitive to me. But it is what some of these let's clean up the sport of boxing crusaders are implying, right? That one guy is juiced, putting the other guy that's somehow not juiced in danger, while at the same time pushing for stricter drug testing in the sport, or weaponized drug testing. Because the only way to even come close to getting rid of PEDs in the sport of boxing is to introduce the biological passport. And I don't see anybody, definitely not this expert Paulie Malignaggi, even so much as mentioning this. So if you keep drug testing methods as they are right now and only increase the frequency with which fighters get tested, all you're going to do is just create more mismatches where one guy is juiced to the gills because he's got the money to hire a guy that's going to help him get away with cheating versus another guy who's not going to have the same amount of resources to be able to get away with, at the very least, as much cheating as the other guy. So if you got a problem with PED use because it creates an unlevel playing field, which somehow supposedly increases the risk of some fighters getting hurt, pushing for drug testing, you're only helping to prop up this unlevel playing field because the richest of fighters, even with biological passports implemented, will always be able to get away with more than guys who don't have the resources to do so. So if you want to make boxing a level playing field because you think that's going to result in less injury to the athletes in it, then you want to let them all do whatever they will. You want to get rid of drug testing. And at that point, everybody will be equally juiced to the gills, or at the very least will have a simple choice to make. Give himself the best chance of participating in the sport at the highest level potentially, or just get knocked off quickly, which can't be that bad to his health. So this idea that boxing is more dangerous because some fighters take PEDs is not only pseudoscientific garbage, it's also absolutely incoherent. Because first of all, where's your evidence that only some fighters are using PEDs? Or how many fighters are using PEDs? You don't even have any of that data. Secondly, where's your evidence that the instances where fighters got hurt in the sport had anything to do with PEDs? Well, you don't have any of that data either. All you got is theories based on theories, guesses, conjecture. And the theories themselves are, guess what? Once again, incoherent. They refute themselves. That's why you got clowns like Paulie Malignaggi saying we need to clean up the sport of boxing because it creates dangerous mismatches where one guy is juiced to the gills and he's hitting a clean fighter in the head over and over and over again. Well, gee, maybe if a guy is able to take punches to the head from a guy who's juiced to the gills over and over and over again, well, maybe he's juiced too, huh? And again, where's your evidence for any of this? But yeah, you got clowns like Malignaggi who say they want to clean up the sport of boxing because of all these mismatches where one guy is juiced to the gills and the other guy is clean, while letting one confirmed PED abuser get away with it, Roy Jones Jr., while wanting to somehow denigrate or get rid of Manny Pacquiao, who never failed a PED test because Paulie thinks he was dirty. That's the guy that's going to create a level playing field? And it's not like Paulie is the only guy with these types of attitudes. The bias in boxing is clear for everyone to see. So if you want to create a level playing field, ladies and gentlemen, you gotta get rid of bias, not PEDs who don't have a mind of their own. So if you think dehydration or something nobody talks about, malnutrition, or simply the rigors of making weight is what contributes to these guys getting hurt, which was certainly the case with these two Japanese fighters, then maybe we should let them use diuretics, clenbuterol, and whatever other substances they need to use in order to be able to rehydrate quickly and safely. Let's give them all a retroactive therapeutic use exemption for that IV they administered right before their fight in their house. Look at Mayweather, a confirmed PED abuser, especially if you take a look at his biological passport. Had a very long amateur and pro career where he fought some of the top level fighters out there while getting hit quite a bit despite all the BS nonsense about the greatest defender ever. Got hurt multiple times in many fights. Who's now retired in his mid-40s. He shows zero signs of any type of cognitive deterioration. He's as stupid as he always was. Or Juan Manuel Marquez, who's on that long list of obvious suspects. That guy had been in wars throughout his entire career and had 4 of them against the greatest fighter of all time objectively. Hard-hitting, juiced-up Manny Pacquiao, right? That guy's brain is fresh as a daisy and he's damn near 50 years old. Clenbuterol for the win. So this idea that PEDs make you hit harder is counteracted by the fact that they help you take punches better. They make you mentally sharper. They sharpen up your defense, help you react to and block or roll shots. And guess what? They also make you hit harder, meaning your opponent's got something to watch out for and maybe all of a sudden isn't throwing as many punches. If PEDs allow you to dehydrate and rehydrate safely, which may give you a massive weight advantage over your opponent, well then allow them to do the same thing. What's the problem? I am not convinced that if you allow everybody to use all the PEDs that they want, that all of a sudden somehow we're just going to have a lot more rock'em sock'em boxing, which would be the type of fight that puts fighters in more danger than more of a technical match. And nobody has even a shred of evidence to posit something like this as even a viable theory. I think it's just as likely that if you let fighters use all the PEDs that they want, with this increased punching power, mental acuity, sharpness, better concentration, it's just as likely that we'll get a whole bunch more chess matches where guys know that one punch could end it all, so they fight like it. They concentrate on technique and sniping each other out with that one perfect shot, which obviously would be a lot safer than prolonged punishment, right? And if you really want to make boxing safer, then how about you start implementing your own rules evenly all across the board, right? Level playing field, guys. Disqualify all the headbutters, low blowers, rabbit punchers, guys that hold and hit, throw elbows. Didn't one of the Japanese fighters suffer a pretty big headbutt that also cut him up? Disqualify the Floyd Mayweathers, Andre Wards, Shakur Stevensons. Or at the very least, allow the B-side to retaliate and maybe stop all that dirty, dangerous behavior from their opponent themselves. Disqualify Lennox Lewis, not just Goota. Disqualified Holyfield for all them incessant headbutts and not Mike Tyson when he retaliates by biting his ear. Disqualify Tony Weeks, who stopped Sergey Kovalev on quote-unquote body shots, but lets Morrell beat Yerbosinuli into a coma. Cite me another instance in the history of boxing where a guy gets stopped on his feet because the other guy landed some body punches. If you want a level playing field in boxing, well gee, implement a level field in boxing. Don't just tell me that the fight could have gone either way, but the Amero bum got it. Again, prove to me that these fights actually can and do go the other way. If you want to create a level playing field in boxing because you think it makes the sport safer, get rid of the bias, corruption, leave PEDs alone, and get rid of drug testing. Man, PEDs are nothing but a scapegoat for all these corrupt mofos to try to pretend like they're fair by virtue signaling. If you want to make the sport safer, get rid of the bias. Implement your own rules. Give us fair fights.